Tuesday, November 15th, 2022.
It's a work session, this one is. This one's a work session.
Work session. Special called work session. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Here.
Commissioner Staton,
Here.
Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
Commissioner Vowles.
Here.
Mayor Austin.
Here, we have one item on our agenda, and that is Henderson Municipal Fire and Light presentation and discussion. And Brad Bickett, our general manager at Henderson Municipal Fire and Light, is going to open up. And welcome, we're glad you're here, and please introduce your staff too.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. First, I want to do introductions, and I've got our staff here, and start with Brian Hardesty, Chief Technology Officer. He's been managing the fiber side of our business as well as our information technology department for 17 years. Have Barbara Mull, our Chief Financial Officer, CFO, and Barbara's going to go over some of the financing and the model for the plan that we're going to present to you today. And Chuck Tucker's our Transmission and Distribution Director, and he's got experience with advanced metering infrastructure is something else that we're going to talk about. We also have the Chair of our board, Lynn Shannon, with us here today, and General Counsel, King Deaton Bronman. Glad they're here too as well. So I want to just start by kind of following up on what I had let you all know about at the last regular meeting you all held, that we had been working for some time to incorporate more technology into our business, and we believe that there's a lot of benefits to continuing what Brian's going to explain to you is our technology roadmap. And back in August, we looked at, we did a business model and business case and looked at the financial projections based on some assumptions and understanding that there's been a lot of changes. There's been a lot of basically expectations are going higher for what people want from the utility, what they want from the internet. We were going to talk about fiber. So basically I'll turn it over to Brian to give a presentation, kind of an overview of the plan. And I think that you all will you'll find it to be quite interesting.
Thank you. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you so much. So you'll probably quickly determine that I'm pretty passionate about these things. I am an engineer by education, but really a community driver by heart. So we've got a few things that I want to visit with on you today. The first one is just a concept that we kind of branded as enabling smart community. And we've got two projects that we'd like to present to you today that kind of both fall into that category. And I think the easiest thing is to kind of give you a little background to start with. So about 5 years ago, we embarked on what we called a technology roadmap back in 2018. And it had several steps involved in it. The very first one was to look at our SCADA system. That's the Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System. It's a real fancy term for that's the stuff we use to monitor our substations. So it manages all the telemetry, the information on how the substations are behaving, and also allows us to control things like breakers on our feeders. So the very first thing we did on that technology roadmap is we actually went in and replaced all that hardware and all the software associated with it. The next step that we took was looking at geographical information systems. So that's GIS. The city and county have a planning commission that actually embarked the first steps of this for us. So the work that they had done gave us the base maps, gave us all the satellite imagery, all the maps that we needed to outlay into our assets. So we actually went out and we physically walked and GPSed every single asset in the system and documented it. And that's all of our poles, all of our transformers, underground infrastructure, everything that we own as a utility. So that was the next step, was to get all that information together. After that, we embarked on what's called an outage management system. And it has a lot of layers to it, but one of the primary things for our customers that it enables is a public outage portal. So if you go to our website today, you can see a map of our outages and see what's going on with those outages. To have that connectivity, the system actually will predict where an outage might be in the system. So we take the phone calls we receive from our customers, we map those based on their address, and the system uses some artificial intelligence to determine where the likely outage in the system is. And we use that to communicate to the management team and the crews on trying to focus, get those repairs done and get everybody's lights on as quick as possible. That uses the GIS information and integrates with the SCADA system. So if a breaker at a substation trips and opens, then it creates the outages automatically in that management system. Lots of integration taking place and building on technology. The next piece that we added was vehicle location. So we put GPS units in all of our trucks. That allows the management team to see where those trucks are located and dispatch the closest trucks to outages or maintenance. On top of that, we've been working on a new financial information system. This is a project that Barbara's working quite diligently on, and that's kind of where we are today. So replacing all of our financial system, integrating things like when we make a change in our system, we issue a work order, that work order flows all the way through GIS and all the way up to the financial system and updates those asset records. So all integrated, all about efficiency and lowering costs from our customers. The piece that I wanted to talk to you about today is advanced metering infrastructure. And this is a broad term, and the term you may hear even more today is smart grid technologies. So in its purest form, we're talking about two-way communications to the items that we have in our asset or in that electric infrastructure. So not only being able to get information, but tell those devices things, two-way communication. And that's what, in a nutshell, advanced metering infrastructure is today. We use the term called smart meters. That's the newest thing. We also have called them AMI meters. They've been called a lot of things over the years. Today, the term people like are smart meters. That enables a few things for our customers. The very first thing it enables automated meter reading. So instead of the technician going out from a meter technician standpoint and having to walk up to that meter and read the number on it, or even drive a truck by it to gather the information, this automated metering reading actually comes back over a communications network and automatically comes to us. So there is no effort to go out and get that read, if you will. It also enables things like remote connects and disconnects. That's not just for non-pay situations. It's for things like suspended services, requests where they may need a meter powered off to do maintenance on a site, lots of different areas. It also enables outage detection. So I mentioned that outage management system to you. Right now, we depend on our customers calling us and saying, my power's out. We have no way to know if the individual customer's power is out. With these new smart meters, they can actually tell us right before they lose power that they're dying. It's called a last gasp of all things. So what we can do is use the information coming back from these smart meters and now map out in that outage management system even more precisely where we might be having problems in the system, and then use that information to more quickly and targetedly dispatch our crews for repairs. The other thing that's fascinating about these new smart meters is it starts putting information about a customer's electric usage in their hands. So if you will, it allows us to deploy a mobile app to their phones, and they can actually see what their usage is. And more importantly, they can look at the conservation efforts that they do and how it impacts their usage. So for instance, if they were to deploy new LED lighting in their home, they can actually see the impact on a daily basis of what their lower consumption looks like. Or if they decide, hey, I'm going to lower my thermostat by a couple of degrees, they can actually see how it impacts. The other thing that's really fascinating here, I'll just mention briefly, is for customers that are deploying distributed solar, so putting solar in their homes, this becomes an extremely useful tool. So now they can actually, instead of us just doing the net metering process, they can actually see the effect of that net metering in the day, each day. We've seen several examples of even our employees that have deployed solar in their homes, and it snowed the other day, and they're like, oh, my solar panels aren't doing anything. So it's those type of smart information that we can put in front of the customers to, just let them know what they're doing and let them make good choices. The other thing that's critical here is especially important to Chuck and his team is that we can start driving some real efficiency and reliability from our electric system. If we can look at the endpoint of the system and see that something's not working exactly correctly or starting to see things that are starting to degrade, or a myriad of other issues, we can react to those before they become problems. So it becomes a very proactive solution when we're getting data back from our system that allows us to anticipate problems and not just react to problems. So the scope, what this project looks like, is the first step we have to do is we have to replace the meters. So we've got a little over 12,000 electric meters out there. We have to buy new meters to enable this technology, and we have to go out and remove the old one and put a new one in. The next piece that we have to kind of bring this whole technology solution together is we have to have a system called meter data management. So if you will, there is a massive amount of information coming back from these meters, not just the read, not just the usage, but things like the voltage and so many other pieces of data that come back into this system, and we need to manage all that data. So all that data comes to a database, and then you need analytics to drive that information to something that's actionable. And that's what a meter data management system does. We have to have a communication system. So I mentioned that those meters talk in two-way communications. We have to bring that data back over some type of a network. And there's different options for that, and we've not predetermined that yet, but we know that we're going to have some type of communication system, be radio, wireless, fiber, something, to backhaul all that information into that database and meter data management system. And then just like I mentioned the other technology road piece maps, pieces that we've had, we have to integrate that data into those systems. So we need to integrate those meters into our outage management system, into that new financial system that Barbara's working with. We have to map all of them in the GIS system and know where they're located, and ultimately have to integrate that with the city system so that we can bill our customers. So that is kind of the overall project for the advanced metering infrastructure, and wanted to kind of pause here and see if anybody had any questions about smart meters or that system in general.
Is this going to be like water usage, and all of a sudden when we put these things in, we're going to get a real true reading? And all of it.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So we do see better information about usage. We have already deployed a lot of digital meters. So the older technology is the old analog meters. And we've deployed digital meters largely in our industrial and commercial customers. So yeah, absolutely. We get more accurate information from these digital meters.
Do we have any data to compare this to with other cities that have gone to this type of system that shows what kind of an increase in usage will be reflected as a result of the automatic meters?
Yeah, I'll look to the team. Do you guys have any? It's not remarkable. So in general, you see, the best way to explain it is we get better resolution into usage. So where that comes up is the tiniest of usage sources. So things like LED lights that may not show up on an analog meter will on a digital meter, but you're talking about very small instances. Most of the times that I've seen that these meters have been deployed and customers have become concerned is when that change has been tied to something else going on. Yeah. So you'll change out the meter and it'll also be a changing in bill cycles, or you'll change out the meters and you'll have some type of credit on the bill that's gone away. So there tends to be a lot of confusion more than there is actual change in meter read, if that's fair. Anything else? Okay, I want to move on to the next topic that I have for you, and that's talking about Hempel Fiber. I haven't had a lot of opportunity to spend in front of you, so I wanted to do a little background with you and kind of let you know where we are today before we talk about tomorrow, if that's fair. Hempel Fiber has been in existence for 22 years. We started deploying fiber in 1998, and we have been a fiber to the business provider. It's kind of maybe a new term for you. In the old days, we called them municipal area networks. We refer to it as fiber to the business today. So our customers on the fiber network are ourselves, and we interconnect all of our electric substations. We connect relaying and all sorts of different equipment over that fiber network. But we also sell services to businesses. And we do that through what we call smart solutions. We provide gigabit-based fiber internet. So when we sell to every single business that we go to, it's fiber. There is no copper in the network. We're 100% fiber. And every single customer that we go to on a business is gigabit. So now we may sell services at lesser values, at lesser rates, but every single customer we go to has gigabit capability today. We also do phone services. We do that in a couple of different flavors. One is traditional phone lines. So if a business comes to me and they have their own phone system and they've got 5 lines that feed that phone system, we'll come in and replace their traditional lines like from an AT&T or a Spectrum, and we come in with what looks like a normal phone line with all the same capabilities and features. We also do trunks, so both PRI and SIP trunks into larger phone systems. So if they've got a newer phone system and that can accept a SIP trunk, we will do that. To give you an example, we serve Deaconess with over 200 call instances. So every time you call the hospital, you're using our network. We also do hosted phone services, and this is one that really the community called for us to do is we have a lot of businesses in Henderson that have older phone systems, and the folks that sold them that phone system or maintained it just aren't with us anymore or aren't in this business anymore, and they're stranded. You know, I've got this $25,000 phone system, and I don't know how to change the name from one name to another, or how to change the operator, automated operator, or how to change what number rings when. We come in with a hosted solution that allows us to just bring new handsets in, and they don't have to buy a new phone system. It's all hosted in the cloud. So they get all the features of a large business without the big investment. And we do that through a subscription model. We also do managed networks. So if same thing, we've learned that small businesses in Henderson don't always have IT staff. So we can come in leveraging our staff and say, hey, we're going to provide a managed network. We're going to put new switches in, and we manage those remotely. And if you need changes, you just call us. And it's that simple. We do the same thing with Wi-Fi. So many of the small businesses, again, don't have IT solutions. They don't know what to do with a Wi-Fi access point. They don't know what to do with guest networks, and they wanted someone that could take care of that for them. So we started hosting managed Wi-Fi services, and we do all the work. If they need a change, they just call and we take care of it. The last piece I really wanted to bring up to you is we're a community partner. And why I say that is this, is that from day one, we have listened to our customers, and we'll talk more about that, but let me give you an example. Early on in my career, the school system came to us and said, we've got a huge problem. We can't connect to A.B. Chandler. Every time it rains, we drop our connection with our existing provider. And we said, okay, let's get fiber to all the schools, and that's what we did. So we worked with the school system. We built fiber to every single city and county school, and we interconnect all those still today. If you go, Deaconess is another example where we partnered with the community. We provide all the connectivity to all of Deaconess's remote offices. So every doctor office that is associated with Deaconess connects through our fiber back to Deaconess Hospital. So many examples of that. We provide the connectivity for the City County Planning Commission, and all that GIS network, all the county offices, all the city offices are all connected over fiber through us. We've done community Wi-Fi solutions. We've done so many things over the years. And really, almost every type of business in Henderson interconnects and uses our fiber. If it's banks, you name it. We've got fiber to the graveyard. so many interesting connection points within the network. I wanted to introduce this group to you. I'm very, very proud of this team, and many of you know them. These are 8 individuals that over the last 17 years we've pulled together as a team. And this is the Hempel Fiber team. They come from a variety of disciplines: engineering, management, network administrators, GIS. But many of these folks you may recognize, and this is the real point I want to make with you. This team holds over 160 years of experience. And this is what we want to share with our community. And that's what we've done with small businesses, is they've come to us and said, we don't have IT staff, we need your help. And that's the reason we're creating these custom managed solutions. You know, 22 years ago, we saw a situation, and the community came to us with a problem. Their internet was just a problem all the time. They had frustration about their internet connections. They had frustration with their providers. And we tried to think about what it would take to create something that was free of that, just frustration. And this is what we've put together over the years. We've listened to our customers. Everything that we do, every choice that we make is driven by the customer input that we receive. We started becoming a solutions provider. And this is what I communicate with our team, is that we provide solutions, not problems. So if you have a challenge, something's not working the way that you want to, you call us. We solve it. You don't talk to Tier 1 of somebody halfway across the country. You talk to a network administrator that will solve your problem. Not, take your number and call you back at this tier, or get a technician out there in a week, or any of those types of things. That's not what we do. The other side of that is that we talk to our businesses. So when we go into a business to introduce ourselves, we ask a few questions and then we listen. We find out what their needs are and we create a custom solution for that business. Security is number one. So if, as an electric utility, we are just rooted in the concept of cybersecurity and protecting our network. And we want to use that same knowledge, and we do use that same knowledge to protect our business customers. So many of our small businesses, again, don't have IT staff, so they look to us to do things like provide firewalls and manage networks to help secure their business. The biggest thing is peace of mind. We try to create a confidence with our customers really in 2 areas. One, that the network's going to work, that it's extremely reliable, and then 2, that they're cost protected. Okay, they know what they know what their bill is going to be, and that's what their bill is. So when we tell them it's going to cost X, when they get the bill, it costs X. It's simple and it doesn't change. So with Hempel Fiber, there's just a few core philosophies that we have. Number one is no smoke and mirrors. It's 100% fiber. What you buy is what you get. It's that simple. Number two, no bait and switch. We do not do any kind of 12-month introductory rates. We don't do any confusing pricing. We tell you up front exactly what you're purchasing, and the prices stay that. It's just, we try to keep it really, really simple from a pricing standpoint. We try not to do a lot of add-ons or a lot of extra pieces. We target the services that you need, and we provide that pricing up front, and that's what you get. There isn't any, after 12 months your price changes to this, or after 12 months that was free and now it's not, that you got to call back and chase and argue and all those things. It's just a frustration that we try to remove. That's also true, there's no service contracts. The other piece to this is that, again, like I mentioned, that we're a solutions, not a problem provider. So we are here listening, we're customizing solutions to the businesses and focusing on making sure we're providing what they need.
You might get to this in a minute,
Yeah.
you might not. So while you were talking about equipment, on the rates that you all plan to charge, are there any extra charges for any extra equipment that might be needed?
The short answer is no, with a little detail. So we will provide on a residential side, when we get to that in just a minute, and even today with businesses, there's a monthly charge to the business services because they're managed network services. But on the residential side, we don't believe the customers want that. So there won't be any equipment rental fees for the base internet service or your Wi-Fi connection. There are a couple of exceptions to that. One would be is, let's say you have a rather large home and you're needing some additional Wi-Fi access points or what we call mesh units. Those will be charged for. But if you will go into your average home and the average needs of that home, it's all included in the rate that we're proposing.
Okay, thank you.
I can say this, if it's anything like your phone service and fiber service, it's excellent.
Thank you.
I've had no issues whatsoever with any of it. And if I have, all I gotta do is pick up the phone, call Tony.
There you go.
They're there in
Tony's
2
your guy.
minutes. Yeah.
And that's what's fun about that team is that our customers get to know that team. And the people that you call and talk to about service could very well be the same person that shows up your house to do the install, or the person that did the install is also the person that would come out and help you if you have a question. And that's this. We're laser focused on customer care. We own the problems. And I think that's such a frustration with folks. They call in and need help with something, and their provider says something like, well, that's your equipment, that's not mine. You've got a printer that won't connect. Okay, that's okay. We'll help you through it because we've got the resources to help you through those issues. And that's what customer care is. It's way beyond customer service. We care about our customers because they're our neighbors. And these folks that are helping you are your neighbors. So why fiber? Just a couple of quick points for you. Speed is the big one, and reliability. So fiber's fast. It's super fast. Fiber was built for data. When you look at other solutions like twisted pair, telephone cables, or coax cables, those were never built to be a medium for data. They were built for things like video, and they were built for things like old-style phone calls. Fiber's fast. It's all about data. The glass is simply a waveguide for that blinking light to travel down. Reliability is off the charts. We love fiber because it just works. You don't have to tune RF signals or do fancy maintenance activities to keep it up and working. When you plug it in, it's on or off, and it's magic. If the fiber is still connected, the service works. We see almost no calls, so it's astounding to us how little we have to do maintenance and how little we get phone calls from our customer. I tell people my biggest challenge is keeping some type of relationship with our customers because I've gone 10, 15 years without talking to a customer at all. And I look up and I say, hey, your package is 10 years old. You want to update? No, this is working fine. Okay. Another piece for you.
Hold it right there.
Yes, sir.
You said update. Now, is this going to be the speed? So when you said update, what are you talking about? They're going to need to update.
Yeah, so with the internet's constantly evolving, without a doubt, right? So when we very first started offering fiber services 22 years ago, we connected customers at 2 or 3 megabits. Today we connect them at 1,000 megabits. And what's fascinating is over that 22-year structure, I've never done a price increase. I just make the bandwidth bigger. So every time that the technology improves and we bring that technology to our customers, we update the services for them and often don't even need to visit with them. So if they've got the lowest tier service, we may increase that 100 meg to 200 meg, and we just do it. Does that make sense? We've seen an evolution in our network from a network that would connect 40 customers to 3 megabits to we offer today a 10 gigabit, so 10,000 megabits are the ring and that connect all of our sites and provide gigabit services over that today. So 1,000 megabits. Oh, my clicker may have died. There it goes. Security. This is the reason the hospitals and the banks love us. You can't tap fiber, so if you think back to the old days when we were watching our James Bond stuff, you know, copper you can attach something to and listen to phone calls. You can't do that with fiber. Fiber, if you try to intercept it, you just break it. So there's no way to tap it. It's extremely secure. And again, banks love us, hospitals love us. It's preferred technology for all these folks that are security conscious. It's future-proof. Here's a fun stat for you. A 10 gigabit, so that's 10,000 megabits, a 10 gigabit connection only utilizes 1/10,000th of the capacity of a single strand of fiber. So this will serve us today, serve us tomorrow, and well out into the future in the lifespan of the cable. We will be physically out there replacing cables that have degraded to the point that they need replacement before we need a new technology when it comes to fiber. So that investment in fiber is very, very future-proof. The same fiber that I would have put into the ground 25, 30 years ago is the same fiber that I install today. In economic development, which I don't want to spend a lot of time on today because I think there's other people that can speak to this better, but economic development is a huge driver for our community. Every time we have a business approach us looking to settle in Henderson County, the question is always on the list, do you have fiber? And that's a concern for the business, but it's also a concern for the employees that they will be hiring that might want to look at moving to this community. We started out when we were doing the fiber business looking at enterprise. And again, I'm trying to communicate to you how we listen to our customers. We looked at the largest customers in Henderson that were doing dedicated T1s back in the day and DS1 services, and that was who we approached first. We grew that business and started looking to small businesses. And what we found was that small businesses needed something different. When we were doing enterprise, they wanted a pipe, they wanted no restrictions on it to use it any way they wanted to. And then small business communicated with us something different. They wanted managed services. They didn't want to have their own IT people. They wanted us to just put it in, make it work, and they don't have to worry about it anymore. They want to focus on their business, not their internet. Okay, that's our job. So that's what we've done. We've built those internet, phone, and Wi-Fi managed services around allowing businesses to be successful in Henderson because they're not worried about this. This just works. And if it doesn't just work, they make one phone call and we get it fixed. Make sense? So that's Hempel Fiber today, what we're doing today. Any questions for me on that? Okay, I want to keep rolling. This is still a little bit of an education for you guys. I want to talk about what's going on with fiber in the state of Kentucky real quick. And I don't know how much of this you've seen. If you've got questions, I'm glad to dig deeper, but I want to just hit it at 100,000 feet for you. There's been approximately $300 million appropriated by the state of Kentucky to build broadband in this state today. It was done through 2 rounds. Round 1 was through the ARPA State Fiscal Recovery Fund. They appropriated $117 million to start taking care of the digital divide or to start bringing broadband to rural America or rural Kentucky. They've awarded just short of 27 million of that, so they're awarded about 90 million of it. And that's been deployed and is starting to build networks. They've got a second round that is getting ready to open up here hopefully next month. That's another 182 million plus the 27 they haven't spent yet. And that's coming from the Capital Projects Fund portion of ARPA. So here's how the state looks at it. They look at here's what were the funding order or the funding priority. The very first thing they want to do is fund addresses that have no service. And when they say no service, what they're saying is no landline internet service. So we're not looking at things like cellular or wireless or satellite. They're not considering any of those. They're looking at raw landline service. The second one they're looking at is what's classified as an unserved address. So these are folks that the only landline service they might have is a slow phone DSL connection, which is basically unusable today. And then the third classification are underserved addresses, and these are addresses that are below 100 meg by 20. And if you will, that was probably comparable to some of the very early cable modem services that were out there. So if you've got an old service with a cable TV network that hasn't been updated in, say, 25 years, that's the kind of service you would get out of it. And this is what those monies are funding. Okay? There is another federal fund that's out there that's referred to as BEAD for short. It's the Broadband Equality Access and Deployment Program. The federal government has allocated $42.5 billion to deploying broadband in rural America. The state of Kentucky is anticipating that they would be allocated around an additional $700 million of that fund, and they're working through the process. They have to create a plan and then quite a few different steps to get access to that money. They're hoping to have access to those funds in 2023. And they're going to have the same funding priorities that they're seeing in the earlier. So underserved and unserved addresses is what they're trying to fund. There's a lot of different schools of thought, but most people believe that that will take a significant portion of America that is not connected to broadband and get them broadband. Some people think it's too much money. Some people think it's not enough. I think it's going to be really, really impressive on what it does for America and the state of Kentucky. This map may be a little hard to see on your screen. This is from the FCC website, and it's the broadband deployment data. This is dated 2020. The most recent version of this comes out here in about a week for the newest data, but I've wanted to share with you. This is a broad look at Henderson County. The areas that are in yellow are considered unserved in Henderson County. The areas that are in green are considered fully served. I know you've already got questions. The dark green is areas that have multiple providers serving them. So in general, for Henderson County, the areas that are in green are the territory that Spectrum claims as served with gigabit cable modems. To give you an idea, the border of these smaller areas are all census blocks, and if you serve one address in the census block, you get to turn it green. So that's kind of where we are today from a county perspective. You will note that the city of Henderson is all green. We anticipate that about 99% of our electric customers are served by Spectrum would be considered a served customer. In general, what that gets you to is if you're in green, you don't get access to broadband funds from the federal government or the state allocations to build those areas. You've got to target the yellow areas. And many of those in Henderson County there's nobody there. These are farmlands with no homes in them. Did want to make sure you knew about something that was happening in our community also. There's been a partnership announced between Kenergy and Connexon. And what they've announced is Kenergy has partnered with Connexon. They're going to deploy 7,200 miles of fiber to the home network. So Kenergy has announced that they're going to build fiber to every single member in their service territory. And they're going to offer fiber to the home services partnered with Connexon. So they'll offer gigabit internet services and phone and even some video services with a partner. So this is kind of what the map looks like. If you will, the area that's in red is Kenergy service territory. The yellow is KU. The blue is us. This is also a map of, if you're red, you will have gigabit fiber internet at your home within the next 3 years. Yes?
You said that Spectrum is available in all the city. Is Spectrum fiber?
No.
Okay.
It's cable?
It's cable TV. So it's
So
their
that's the
traditional HFC hybrid fiber coax network that is available to everyone. That, as far as we know, the data tells us that 99.5% of all of our electric customers, not city boundary, but electric customers, are serviced by Spectrum.
Okay. Thanks.
When you say
Sorry.
service by Spectrum, you mean they have the ability to purchase Spectrum?
Yes.
Not that they're actually...
Taking services, yes.
Gotcha.
So Spectrum is an option.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, if you go back to that FCC map, Spectrum claims that they have service available to all addresses. So that leaves us, that map creates an interesting scenario. It creates a scenario where the people in blue would not have gigabit fiber internet. That everybody in red would, but we would not as a city. So the other project that I bring to you today is looking at expanding our business. So not just being a fiber to the business provider, but becoming a fiber to the home provider. So bringing that fiber to the home to our electric utility customers. And the question we're going to ask is, what if? So what if we could take that smart business solutions that we're providing today, that we're very, very good at, and we can drive those solutions to our homes? What if we can bring multi-gigabit, so not just gigabit, but 2 and 5 gigabit even right now, to these homes, and we can bring these same business concepts to the home. The things that we have found to be extremely successful in small business will work on our homes. So doing things, again, no smoke and mirrors, no bait and switch pricing, bringing solutions, not problems, and still treating every single house as our neighbor, because they are. And we launch Henderson into a new era of being a 10 gigabit city. The network that we deploy will be a 10 gigabit network, the same network that's deployed in places like Chattanooga, Tennessee, that has shown massive economic development for them. The next question is what if we could drive those managed Wi-Fi services in the home and not just offer Wi-Fi, but Wi-Fi 6 gigabit Wi-Fi? And there's only a handful of devices that even support this today, but tomorrow we're going to have everything doing this. We want to drive that managed Wi-Fi solution in the home. Again, removing frustration. Wi-Fi can be so complicated. You know, does that room have coverage? Does this room have coverage? Well, if I walk outside, it's better if I walk inside. I connected this device and suddenly my network doesn't work. And I tried to connect that and now I have this Ring doorbell and I have this and I have that and all these 20 devices. I have a smoker at my house that connects to the internet. I'm still not sure why. But what if we can do that? 57% of the internet all around the world comes through Wi-Fi. That's fascinating to me. 95% of all the home connectivity is over Wi-Fi. You know, as IT professionals, we always told you to plug it in, don't connect it wireless. But that's not what we do in our homes. We connect everything we have through wireless today. Even security cameras are now connected over wireless. What if we can put an application on your phone and you can see your network and where you are? You can see what devices are connected to it. You can see what devices are assigned to what members of your household. You can see what devices are in what rooms in your household. And you can figure all that in an app. And you can see if somebody suddenly comes into your home and connects something that's not supposed to be there. You receive an alert. And you now know that I've got a device and I don't know what that is. It's connected to my home network. It's got access to my kid's laptop. What if my son needs to pause the internet for a while? What if he needs a break? What if we can enable these solutions where you can pause internet, you can do scheduled internet, you know, and manage these things in our homes. And again, without being an IT professional, just having a simple app where I click on the person and say pause. What if we can drive that security concept into the homes? Again, we're not IT professionals in our homes. You know, what if we can keep out these things like malicious websites, viruses, these intrusions that we don't even know are happening today? What if we can enable applications for things like blocking websites? You determine what the devices in your home can see. You get alerts if a device in your home has gone to a website that you don't want them on. Or you can see things like how many intrusions has my network protected me from. These are all solutions, not problems. What if we can think about things bigger than our homes? What if we can think about driving that smart community or that smart city concept? What if we can leverage all of those fiber connections and all these Wi-Fi access points to create a community Wi-Fi system, including things like additional outdoor Wi-Fi access points? We can get into some really neat concepts, and we can get into things like I leave my home, but as long as I can see a Wi-Fi access point on Hempel's network, I still have connectivity. What if that Chromebook that the high school issues to its students leaves the school and still is connected to the school system's network when it goes home? You know, I want to pause there for just a minute and think about what that would have done during the pandemic if we'd have had it. Because the school system called us and begged us to help. Now we helped. We helped in a lot of different ways and creative ways. We helped churches connect so that they could broadcast. We helped businesses connect with greater rates so when their employees went home, you know, they could remote work. But I did not have a solution for the school system. And this is one way we could have helped. How about organizations? And I'm talking about things like fire and ambulance and police department. What if when they drove up to an address, if that was a Hempel Fiber customer, their terminals connected to the internet at gigabit speeds? What does that enable? I don't know the answers. I'm just saying what if. What if we can provide community Wi-Fi at the events downtown? What if we can enable not just, and when I say that, yes, it's the person sitting there watching the event, but even more importantly, it's the businesses that are participating in those events. They've got point-of-sale systems. They call us all the time. Bluegrass Festival, I've got this booth. I need to run credit card transactions. Can you hook me up? The other service providers aren't always able to get to all those nooks and crannies we could. So I'm going to pause for questions for just a minute. I've given you a lot. A lot of what ifs. We went and talked to our customers about this concept, about us entering the residential market, and we wanted to get their feedback. And these are a few of the things they said. Said, I'm a current Hempel Power customer. They've always provided me with outstanding response and service. I know this would continue if they became my internet provider. Please do this. This one was more to the point. Do it. Please do it. Sign me up tomorrow. Sometimes people are direct. Here's another one. Please, for the love of all that's holy, please get ahead of the residential fiber curve in this area. Help your citizens get away from these truly horrible internet service providers. These are real comments provided to us anonymously from our customers. The other thing that's really interesting here is we went to our business customers and we said, we got a simple question to ask you. I want you to rate your experience with Hempel Fiber from 0, you hate us, to 10, you love us. Okay? We talked to over 10% of our customers. Our average rating was 9.95. We had one customer give us a 7, and I asked him why. And he said, well, I just got to know you. The guy retired, and I'm new. I said, fair enough. I like this one. Many of you may remember that we once provided a wireless network to residential for a short period of time. This customer said we were subscribers of Hempel's wireless service. Customer service and tech support were the best we've ever experienced. I certainly hope that Hempel will once again provide residential services as we need additional choices. If Hempel's offers services again, we'll be back in a heartbeat. So, what we're going to talk to you today is about an investment in fiber. That's an investment in our community, and we truly believe with fiber we can. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any other questions that you have, and then we'll hand off to Ms. Barber to share the financial side with you. Okay.
Real quick, before you sit down.
Yes, sir.
When we put a lot of stuff on apps, it allows you to do a lot of stuff,
Absolutely.
but it collects stuff too.
Mhm.
What stuff are y'all going to collect that you may not let everybody know that you collect?
There's no secret. So we collect things like usage information. So not what you're using, but how much you use. So we collect things like if I provide a gigabit of speed to you, you're on average using 900 megabits of that. And that information gets collected so that when you call and you have problems or you're saying, hey, I don't have the speeds I should have, we can look at that and provide that information to you. The information that we collect gets given to no one. So any of that usage information, any of that is not given to anyone. It's locked down in a server, and it's there simply for reference to help you. And that's the only reason it exists. We're not Google. We don't store everything you go to look at. We have no means to do that. We have no way to look at what website you went to or listen to your phone calls or any of those kind of things. We don't have any of those capabilities. Full disclosure, we do have one requirement from the federal government that if we receive a subpoena, that we can start recording that information. So we don't store it, we don't record it until we receive a subpoena, and that's by federal law. We have to be able to do that.
Question for you.
Yes.
So, like if Spectrum installs internet, they usually bring a router.
Mm-hmm.
I think they usually give you an option to maybe rent or maybe they bring the modem and then they give you the option to rent a router or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
What's the Hempel plan for that part of it?
It'll all be provided for free.
So it'll all be provided.
Yeah,
by
so we
Hempel as
provide
part
what's
of
called
your
an optical network terminal that terminates the fiber cable and then transfers it to an Ethernet signal or the standard network cable you're used to. That cable travels to what's called a residential gateway, and that's what provides the Wi-Fi service. So as long as that Wi-Fi router covers, and I think on average it covers a 3,500 square foot home. So as long as that's all you need, if you start needing additional what we call mesh access points,
Right.
so let's say there's the newest thing that everybody's talking about is fiber in the back or Wi-Fi in the backyard. So a lot of people have that extra space in the backyard that they either entertain at or they have their man cave or whatever. And let's say you want an access point out there, we would install a mesh access point, and there would be a fee associated with that. It's usually $5 or $10 at the most.
Sure. Okay.
One more. For people, neighborhoods, say like this block decides they want to go fiber,
Mhm.
and the other block keeps Spectrum, whatever they got. Will them other taxpayer customers and all that's on the other block, will they be financing this fiber for the other block?
Absolutely.
In any way?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a capital cost associated with the build-out of this network, and we will build to every home in our service territory, regardless if they take the service or not. So we will build out that network. Everything but the actual drop from the pole to the house gets built up front. So everything that we talk about from the financing perspective will be an investment by our entire electric customer service base.
So you have some customers paying for something they won't use for other customers to use.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, with that said, they will also benefit from the revenue that we generate. So the revenue that we generate from this project will benefit all of our customers regardless if they take the service or not.
In what form?
I'll let Barbara get into that a little more, but we'll talk more about that if that's fair. Is that fair? Okay.
You did a good presentation.
Good.
Thanks, sir.
Pretty good.
Okay. Well, I'll introduce Ms. Barbara Morrow, our Chief Financial Officer.
Welcome, Barb.
Thank you. And so I'll just be going over some of the financial highlights. So I'd like to discuss the two requests that will be brought to you in the next meeting. Both of those work together, and we can't have one without the other. So that is the bonding for these projects, and then also the rate adjustment for the bonding for the projects. So with your approval, as Hempel moves forward for the fiber to the home project and the AMI project and those new technologies, general obligation or GO bonds would be issued to fund those projects. So that would be a total of a $21 million bond. That would be over a 25-year period, and right now the interest rate is expected to be 4.61%, but that has actually decreased since we got those estimates. So $16 million of the fiber to the home, of the 25-year bond would be fiber to the home, and then $5 million would be for the AMI. So we also listed in the resolution a conversion from overhead to underground electrical facilities. That is just an extra project if funds are available. If for one of the projects are under budget, we'd be able to use those funds for that project. So that's the only reason that is listed in that resolution. So the timeline for the bonding would be if it is approved by the City Commission in November, then in December the bonds would be sold, and in January we would receive the funds to begin the project. As Brian mentioned, timing's a little bit critical with all the funding coming in, so we want to make sure we get that approved as soon as possible to get the funding as soon as we can in January. So with issuing the bonds, we would have to have a rate increase to cover the additional debt service that we would have from the bonding. So the total rate increase to cover these projects would be a 6% overall rate increase, which equates to about $2.3 million in annual revenue. And that would cover the debt service for the first 7 years of the bonds. And the reason why the debt service is different the first 7 years is because bonding is based on the useful lives of the assets for the projects. So the 25-year piece would be the fiber to the home infrastructure and that build out. Then you have a 10-year piece that is for additional service vehicles, equipment, trailers. And then you have a 7-year piece, which would be for the AMI and then the customer equipment related to the fiber to the home. So that means the first 7 years of the debt service is a little higher, a little less for the 10-year piece, and a little less for the 25-year piece. But the 6% rate increase would cover the debt service for those highest 7 first years.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Before we move on? So you made a comment to start that interest rates have gone down a bit.
Yes.
And I've noticed they're down maybe about 10% from when you all first looked at this.
Yes.
So my question is related to the ordinance as far as the rate adjustments. Is there a way we can approve an up to 6% raise, and then you guys match that to the current interest rates to only take what you need at that time for the debt service?
Don't believe that's possible. I think it has to be the actual rate that's approved, correct? So
Okay.
it'd have to be the 6%. And he mentioned it was very slight decrease, so I don't know what amount that would equate to, but it would have to be what was in the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. So in updating the rates, I adjusted the fixed rates on the rate schedules to increase slightly, and then updated the consumption rates to have an overall 6% rate increase per customer class, and then also an overall 6% increase just overall. So we adjusted the fixed charge first because we recognized the need for the fixed charges to be changed related to our fixed cost. But we also wanted to keep those charges reasonable as we worked with the city in the past on that. We didn't want a large increase. But we did know that we needed to increase those costs anyway because of the fixed cost. And such examples would be tree trimming, other maintenance, capital projects that's recovered through depreciation. All of that goes into our fixed cost recovery. So what we're doing is we're asking our customers to invest in these new technologies now, but with expected benefits. So not only will the customers gain all the benefits that Brian discussed in his presentation with these new technologies, with AMI, fiber to the home, but they'll also benefit from the increased revenue and cash related to the fiber in the home project. So as the fiber to the home project is able to pay its own debt, generate the excess revenue, generate the excess cash, all that money comes back to the utility. So the cumulative cash at the end of the fiber to the home project for a 10-year period is projected to be over $10 million. That comes back to the overall utility. So what that does, for example, is AMI was included in our capital plan before, but we knew we didn't have the cash necessarily to do all the capital projects that we needed to do within our capital plan. That means all of that would have to go through a cost of service study, which would result in a larger rate increase. So if we're able to finance this, that's obviously a much better solution for our customers. And with us doing this now, it's a small incremental rate change, and the increased fiber revenue and the cash will be able to offset future rate increases to allow us to continue to do small incremental rate increases to hopefully avoid larger increases in the future. So that's just a general overview, so I'll hand it back over to Brad, but I'll be available for questions as well.
So basically, I just want to recap, and certainly if there's questions, we are prepared to answer those questions. We want to make sure we had the right people here. One of the things that I would add, and Brian hit on this, there's value in this plan for all the customers, whether they take fiber service or not. And I want to speak to one customer class, which is our industrial customers. Through the coordination effort of Missy, I've had some communication, and outside of the forum that was put together with these representatives of these larger customers, they are interested in being able to manage their own usage to save themselves some cost as they're planning for higher energy costs, as we all are. And one of the ways that we can do that is to deploy AMI, advanced metering infrastructure. And, you know, part of what's common with the AMI and the fiber to the home is that we're building out, we're asking for Hempel's customers to invest in a build-out of infrastructure. And it's communication infrastructure that's going to provide value back to all customers. And with that, I'll certainly take any other questions or any other comments at this time.
Brad, I've got a question that I've actually asked you before, and I want to re-ask that now that we're in a city commission setting. So on the AMI, I understand the need to have a lot of the most advanced equipment at our industrial base. Is there, and I'm understanding that the program calls for that same type of equipment at the residences as well. Has there been any thought given to maybe the businesses and industries need one solution, but the residential customers may not need as much as the business customers, and there might be an opportunity to save by offering them a little bit less of a technology suite than what we're giving the business customers?
So I've looked into that question, and basically when you put a smart meter in for any residential customer, it's going to have the capability to do anything that you want with being able to communicate both ways. And that's basically to read information from it and even communicate back to the meter if there's a future need to, say, allow a customer to participate in the same demand response program that a larger industrial customer might want. One example that we've become aware of that's been done down in Florida with Florida Power and Light, they allow their customers to participate just for the purpose of allowing the utility to turn off a pool pump during the day. And by being able to turn off all the pool pumps in an area in the middle of the afternoon, they save the equivalent of having a power plant online. So to your point, we don't have a lower cost smart meter option that, wouldn't also just provide all the benefits that we might need in the future. If that
Okay.
answers the question.
All right,
And
sure.
I did look into that, talked to Chuck and Brian both about it.
Okay, ballpark, how much cheaper would our service be than, say, Spectrum for the same internet?
So Spectrum doesn't provide fiber internet,
Right.
and if it gets too complex, I'll get back to Brian, but we are at the same, we are at the same price point as what AT&T Fiber is offering
Mhm.
for 1 gig service and for what Connexon's planning to offer with partnered with Kinergy. Their 1 gig service is $79.99, I think it's $79.99, right? So we're at the same price point as both of those providers.
I think one of the places where we're at a competitive disadvantage is that those providers offer a lesser service for less money.
Right.
And so have you given any thought to what your projections are for market share
Mhm.
as it relates to being able to reach the customers who do not need 1 gig worth of service?
Right, Brian's done some research also and looked at offering a package that would be maybe about half a gig or a 500 meg service, and we can do that. And the good news is we have the ability to be flexible, and as Brian put it, I think that's the best way to say it is we're offering solutions to the customers. So if that's what customers want, that's what we'll provide. Is that fair enough? And of course, understanding, it's kind of like the smart meter question. When we build that infrastructure out, we can provide 1 gig service, so it's the same cost of the utility whether we offer 500 meg or 1 gig.
Yeah.
So we certainly are able to do that. If that's what folks want, then we'll do that. That's
I mean, like 500 meg would still get you 3 smart TVs and wireless and all that. I mean, just
Exactly.
about everything that I don't want to say normal, but a below average household or average household would need. And so that was one concern that I had in terms of being able to penetrate the market.
right.
I think the key piece is we will listen to our customers.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And so from what I'm hearing is the build-out's going to cost what it's going to cost. But as far as the price and models and everything that we can offer to the customers, we have the ability to adapt and change
Right.
based on what our market needs are. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely, and that's what we've done for the last 24 years.
Okay.
If this commission went along and increased 6%, I'm pretty sure you got the numbers. What have you estimated would be over revenue compared to this year? What would be the number?
Can you tell us, on average, what that is on like a monthly basis for a bill?
Yeah, an average residential customer that uses about 1,000 kilowatt hours, it would be about $5 a month.
I do want to note that we're creeping up on 3:30 and we've got a hard start time for our special called meeting. Do you mind to keep a few people around when we get to that on the special called meeting agenda for additional questions?
Absolutely. I believe we're all prepared to stay through the duration of the meeting, so.
Awesome.
I got one more quick one. Have you factored in any money coming from the state on that money, for, what was it, 200 million?
Yeah, unfortunately, the funding is unavailable to us because all of our customers are served.
Okay.
So this
So-
project is fully funded from the bond.
Thank you all so much. That was an excellent presentation. My goodness.
I want to mention just right quick, that as far as economic development and growth of our population, Henderson County, Owensboro, Davis County, Vanderburgh County, and Hopkins County is probably all going to have fiber service and gig service in the next 3 years.
Oh, yeah, this is just another revenue source for years to come. Once you get the fiber in, you're done.
So
It's just
if we
subscriptions.
didn't have this, we're at a distinct disadvantage on economic development and household population without this. So that's just
That's a good point.
my single comment. So,
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn special call, or the work session.
is there a second, please?
Second.
There a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. Does anybody need to take a 2-minute break or a real quick break? Can we move right on into the, okay, we're okay? Okay, we will move right into the special call meeting for Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. So,
I forgot the proclamation.
okay,
Sorry.
that's all right.
And we need to get them to start us up, because this one does need to be recorded.
So it's blue, or we already on? Video. I haven't listened to the presentation before. It was a very good presentation. It does. It meant a lot to the way I feel about
You
it.
ready?
Ready? Okay. So I'll call this meeting to order, and roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Here.
Commissioner Staton.
Here.
Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
Commissioner Vowles.
Here.
Mayor Austin.
Here. We have a proclamation for the Native American Heritage Month, and is there someone here to accept this proclamation? There doesn't appear to be, so you want to just read it, and then
Okay.
we'll get it to them.
All right.
Who requested this?
The Daughters of the American Revolution.
Okay.
National American Indian Heritage Month, whereas the history and culture of our great nation has been significantly influenced by American Indians and indigenous peoples, and whereas the contributions of American Indians have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America today, and whereas their customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of a rich legacy throughout the United States. And whereas Native American Awareness Week began in 1976 and recognition was expanded by Congress and approved by President George Bush in August 1990, designating the month of November as National American Indian Heritage Month. Now therefore, Steve Austin, by virtue of the authority vested in him as mayor of the city of Henderson, does hereby proclaim the month of November 2022 as National American Indian Heritage Month in the city of Henderson, and urges all citizens to observe this month with appropriate cultural, artistic, and educational programs, ceremonies, and historical activities.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is we have a public hearing scheduled on the Henderson Municipal Power and Light rate adjustments that are requested. And so I want to open that public hearing and ask if there's anyone here tonight that would like to speak on that subject. There appears to be none, so I'm going to close that public hearing, and we will go on to the consent agenda, where we have 4 sets of minutes and a couple of a resolution and a municipal order.
We have the minutes of the February 8th, 2022 regular meeting, the February 15th, 2022 special called meeting, February 15th, 2022 work session, and the February 22nd, 2022 regular meeting. Resolution number 31-22, resolution accepting Cleaner Water Program grant on behalf of Henderson Water Utility, approving the grant assistance agreement, authorizing the amendment of the Henderson Water Utilities annual budget, and authorizing the mayor to sign all related documents. And Municipal Order 69-22, municipal order awarding bid for cleaning services for the Public Safety Building to Epic Systems Incorporated of Evansville, Indiana, in the amount of $2,816.50 per month.
Is there any item a commissioner would like to pull off the consent agenda for further discussion? Being none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
There a second, please?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Staton,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles.
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
Aye. Next, we have two second readings, and they both have to do with the HWU budgeted positions, their reorganization that they're going through. And the first one is an ordinance amending the budgeted positions.
Ordinance number 31-22, ordinance amending portion of fiscal year 2023 Henderson Water Utility budget. Ordinance amending Henderson Water Utility budgeted positions and job classifications of the 2022 through 2023 budget by eliminating 2 treatment plant operator chief positions, 1 HWU assistant general manager contract employee position, and 1 HWU maintenance technician senior position, adding 2 wastewater treatment operator 1 positions and 1 HWU maintenance technician 2 position, and creating 1 wastewater treatment plant manager position and 1 senior project manager position.
Is there a motion to approve second reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? Tom's here if there's any questions. Being none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Staton,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
Aye. And next is the accompanying amending the job classifications and for the information office. No, this is, I'm sorry, this is the second reading ordinance on job classification and pay plan for public information officer position.
Ordinance number 32-22, ordinance amending job classifications and pay plan. Ordinance approving amendment to job classifications and pay plan to add public information officer position.
Is there a motion to approve second reading?
So moved.
There second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Staton.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles.
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
Aye. And next we have an ordinance accepting public improvements at River's Edge subdivision.
Ordinance number 33-22, ordinance accepting public improvements. An ordinance accepting public improvements consisting of roadways in River's Edge new lots 3 and 4 and remaining lot number 2.
Is there a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I'm not going to vote on this one, just because
Yes, sir.
I'm on property.
Okay. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt.
Aye.
Commissioner Staton.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
Aye. Next, we have the two items, two ordinances, one approving the GO bonds for the HMPNL fiber project and the new meter project, and then we have one for an ordinance approving and adopting the rate adjustments that will pay for that, those bonds. So, do you have anything else you want to bring forward, Brad, about this or on this, on the subject at all?
Mayor and Commissioners, I just would like to thank you for hearing the presentation and basically just let you know that we are prepared to move forward on this project and believe it's for the benefit of all the customers.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
Brad, how's that rate increase gonna go again? 6%?
Can we get a
Oh,
motion?
okay.
Gotta get a
Yeah,
motion.
okay,
Yeah, sorry.
Let's get a,
Yeah. Is there, is,
First, I have to read
Yeah,
this.
I'm sorry.
It's 2 pages. Okay. Ordinance number 34-22, summary of ordinance. An ordinance of the City of Henderson, Kentucky authorizing the issuance of its City of Henderson, Kentucky General Obligation Bond Series 2023A in the approximate aggregate principal amount of $21,625,000, which amount may be increased by up to $2,165,000 or decreased by any amount for the purpose of financing the costs of 1, the acquisition, construction, installation, and equipping of a fiber-to-home infrastructure system to provide fiber internet and voice services to customers of the city's municipal electric and fiber optic utility system, and B, an advanced metering infrastructure system for the city's electrical generation and distribution facilities, and 2, the conversion of certain existing above-ground electrical facilities to underground electrical facilities approving the form of bonds, authorizing designated officers to execute and deliver the bonds, authorizing and directing the filing of a notice of or notices with the state local debt officer, providing for the payment and security of the bonds, establishing a bond payment fund for the bonds, affirming the existing sinking fund, authorizing acceptance of the bid of the purchaser for the bonds, and repealing inconsistent ordinances. This ordinance authorizes the issuance of a series of general obligation bonds designated as General Obligation Bond Series 2023A, the bonds by the City of Henderson, Kentucky, the city, for the purposes of, 1, financing all or a portion of the costs of A, the acquisition, construction, installation, and equipping of 1, a fiber home infrastructure system to provide fiber internet and voice systems to customers of the city's municipal electric and fiber optic utility system, and 2, an advanced metering infrastructure system for the city's electrical generation and distribution facilities, and B, the conversion of certain existing above-ground electrical facilities to underground electrical facilities, collectively the project. 2, paying capitalized interest on the bonds if desirable. 3, paying all or a portion of the cost of credit enhancement of the bonds, if any. And 4, paying all or a portion of the cost of issuance of the bonds. Provisions are made in the ordinance for the payment of the bonds and the security therefore for the application of the proceeds of the bonds, for the establishment of a bond payment fund, for the continuation of the city's previously established sinking fund, for the transfer of excess electric and fiber optic utility system revenues to the general fund of the city on a subordinated basis to other outstanding obligations secured by electric system revenues in amounts equal to the debt service on the bonds, and for certain covenants of the city with respect to the bonds. The bonds are to be sold at public competitive sale and shall mature or be subject to mandatory sinking fund redemption in varying amounts on December 1st, 2023, and each December 1st thereafter through December 1st, 2047. The bonds pledge the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the city, and provision is made for the collection of tax to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds subject to certain credits as provided in Section 8 of the ordinance. The sale of the bond is contingent upon the satisfaction of the requirements and conditions of the city regarding the project as required by KRS Section 83A.060. The following Section 8 of the ordinance is set forth in its entirety. Section 8, General Obligation. The bonds shall be full general obligation bonds of the city, and for the payment of the bonds and the interest thereon, the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the city are hereby pledged for the prompt payment thereof. During the period of bonds are outstanding, there shall be and there hereby is levied on all of the taxable property in the city, in addition to all other taxes without limitation as to rate, a direct tax annually in an amount sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds as and when due. It being hereby found and determined that the current tax rates of the city are within all applicable limitations. The tax shall be and is hereby offered, computed, certified, levied, and extended upon the tax duplicate and collected by the same officers in the same manner, and at the same time the taxes for general purposes for each of the years are certified, extended, and collected. The tax shall be placed before and in preference to all other items and for the full amount thereof, provided, however, that in each year, to the extent that the other lawfully available funds of the city are available for the payment of the bonds and are appropriated for such purpose, the amount of such direct tax upon all of the taxable property in the city shall be reduced by the amount of such other funds so available and appropriated. That's all I'm reading.
That's all that's it.
Maybe he did.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mayor, before you get started on discussion, I do want to recognize that Chip Sutherland is here from Bayer. And
Hi, Chip.
As you know, Chip, he comes for all of our bonding.
Yes. Chip, do you have anything you want to add to the discussion at this time, or?
No, you're not happy to answer any questions, but I think they were well presented.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay.
Okay, yeah. On the 6%, that's just to cover the bonds, correct?
It's to cover the debt service for the bond. Yes.
Okay, and then you're gonna come back when, next year, for a rate increase again?
So our plan is to do a cost of service study at the beginning of 2023. We did not do one at the beginning of 2022. We've seen higher costs. The inflation numbers are affecting everyone.
Okay, so you are coming back for a rate increase?
We believe so, yes.
So how much you think you're gonna come back for?
It,
You got
it's hard to
6%
say
here.
at this point. What I think would be best is, once we do the cost of service study and we kind of see what we need, we are using our reserves currently, operating reserves. So basically, at that time, we would need to figure out what we want to get to in terms of operating reserves, where we want to maintain. I could say we are we're a little bit above our target of 180 days of operating cash, which is really where we need to be, especially when we looked at my rating agencies and counterparties that we enter deals with. But to your point, what I would look at doing.
How much is 180 days operating cash?
That's what we need to have.
No, I said, I was talking to her, finance,
I'm sorry.
20 million for 180 days.
That's right. And there's a good basis for establishing what I've talked with Barbara a little bit about, what would be called a rate stabilization fund, and what that would be for the purpose of. You're familiar with the power cost adjustment, which basically passes through cost of our power to customers, whether it be a credit or a cost, a charge. The idea would be that we have some amount that's set aside to help to offset that power cost adjustment should it get too high, and that too high number needs to be determined. But it seems that we get questions when we get to about a penny or 1 cent on a kilowatt hour on a power cost adjustment. So to your point, what adjustment we would ask for would really be based on what the Utility Commission feels comfortable with and what we feel comfortable with in terms of operating reserves and covering our costs going forward. So if there's a need for a higher increase than what you all would be comfortable with, what we would propose would be to do a multi-year plan, if that's what it takes. But at this point, I don't know, and I don't really want to speculate on what that increase is going to look like.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, as long as I've been on the commission, every time you come back, it was at least 4 to 5% increase. That's just my recollection. I may be wrong. So if we add a 5% increase, so you're talking about increasing the taxpayers' utilities 11% less than 1 year?
Well, I don't know that would be our plan. Basically, the rate increase that we're asking for this project would go into effect in January. In terms of what we come back to from you, it might be.
Well, what I'm saying is, I get the project stuff, but what
Right.
I'm saying is the person that's paying the bill, this is what they're gonna feel. We don't care how many projects we're doing,
I
but
understand. Yeah, and-
11% increase less than 1 year is a lot of money.
Absolutely. And I think it would be best if we could work to not put off rate increases to the point where we actually have to ask for some significant amount that's much more difficult for people to adjust to. I think that's what sometimes happens when there's a resistance to ask for the increases when they're needed. Don't have any intention of doing that. So we would try to work with you best we could to minimize that, how steep of an increase we have.
One of the things I can't really get to understand about Hempel, when we was in this part about Big Rivers buying and all that you had a lot of money in reserves, millions and millions of dollars. I don't understand how you can accumulate that kind of money.
Oh, well,
And ask for rate increases.
Well, the last time a rate increase was requested was, I don't know the year, but it's been a long time ago. It was before, well before I took over, and it was, I think, at the very beginning of Chris Heimgartner's taking the position. I think it might have been back in 2017. So what happened, basically, when we decided to retire the power plant, there was extra capacity in the market, generation capacity. And power prices were as low as we had ever seen in recent history. And the reason for that was a combination of things, but one of the biggest drivers was low natural gas prices. Fracking allowed for, so much natural gas that Texas was flaring enough to heat all the homes in Texas at one point, I heard. So we basically saved a lot of money by not having to make that capacity payment for Station 2. And we entered into contracts for capacity. The timing was just impeccable. It was great. The timing couldn't have been better. So that's how the utility, thankfully, was able to put money into the operating reserves. So when we went out and we asked for bid for RFP soliciting energy and capacity, we looked very good to our counterparties. And we were able to get very good pricing. As a matter of fact, we got prices on our power supply deals better than utilities quite a bit larger than us because of the financials that our utility was able to have. So it was really a good move for the utility at that time, and there's nothing wrong with the utility having sufficient operating reserve, in my mind. I think it's a good thing.
One of the things is, and I'll be real quick because time is getting away. Hempel to me, and I'm old-fashioned, but Hempel to me was designed so they could keep taxpayers' utility rates low. Only thing I see is that you guys are like a lone wolf and you're getting into stuff, fiber optic, which is great. And you're becoming your own little business, but the taxpayers' rates keep going up. And he said it would keep customer costs low. I don't see where it's keeping customer costs low because every time I look around, you're asking for a rate increase.
Okay.
So from where it was designed to be for the people who invested in it years ago, it's gotten completely away from that, and it's become a business all of its own, a profit business, and all to its own. And I'm not on board with any of that. But just go ahead.
May I share some information, Commissioner Pruitt? I have some rate comparisons that I think would be of interest to you, and I'll share them with everyone. This is a residential. This is a commercial. And this is basically a graph put together by Barbara that shows how we compare to all of our neighboring utilities. And I think we find that we are, well, first of all, you can clearly see that we're the lowest of any other electric utility around us by a significant amount. That's the result of the great work of the Utility Commission and also the support of this City Commission. So,
well, before we get to that, couple things. Hempel was designed so that the taxpayers could keep the rates low. So that's what it's doing.
Absolutely.
But on the other hand, a lot of these other factors, like Louisville, people make more money in Louisville than we make in Henderson, Kentucky. So a lot of this data is true. So that really doesn't affect me in one way or the other. But what I'm trying to say is...
What about Madisonville and Bowling Green and Frankfurt?
Yeah, a lot of them make their capital.
Hopkinsville.
Their money and capital per city and family are a lot higher than Henderson's, a lot of those cities. But anyway, what we're trying to say is, all I'm saying is, if we increased electrical rates 11%, less than what, 3 months?
well, we're not asking for that for an increase at this time.
So next year, you're not coming back for an increase?
I don't think he said one way or the other.
I'll let him speak.
But no, I have not. All I've said is that we plan to do a cost of service study at the beginning of the year.
So you might come back. Okay, that's what I'm saying. If you come back and we increase another 4 or 5%, we've increased electrical rates 10% in 1 year. That is too much for the people of Henderson. I would tell anybody, that's too much. 10% increase less than a year, electrical rates, and everything else is going to increase, water and all the other stuff. We're making a big hit on the taxpayers here in Henderson, the ratepayers.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments on what we're looking at right now is the bonds, is to authorize Hempel to secure the bonds.
I have a few comments, if I may. So first of all, Brad, you brought up the cap on the cost adjustment, for lack of a better term, put inside a fund, so if that were to get out of line. I just wanted to say that I think that's a heck of a good idea. We are several months removed now and several news cycles removed now from what happened in Texas last winter. And I think we all saw a case study there about what could happen if costs were to get out of line and how that passes along to our customers. And so I do hope that you all continue to go along that path and look at capping that so that our customers are protected from any catastrophic events that might happen like that. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I did want to also make some comments. The City Commission has heard a presentation from you all about advanced metering and also about the fiber proposal that you got. I made a few notes and I wanted to share them at this meeting just in case anybody's watching so that they'll know my reason for my thought on the way I'm going to vote. On the advanced metering project, some things that I was able to gather is that we are running into problems with the shortage of employees in terms of contracting with third-party services and employees to go out and read meters, and we're not immune at any level of government and business in the nation pretty much about the employee shortage. We also, advanced metering would lessen the need for reliance on third-party meter reading services in the future. And so if we do put money from bonding into the meters, then it seems to me that it's an investment for the future so that we will have less cost in the future to do our day-to-day services and also provide the end user the ability to see a lot of things about their electricity that they can't see now, so that they have a better understanding of how they're going to impact their electricity costs by what they do at their home. So that's what I was able to gather from the advanced metering. On the fiber, to be honest, when I came to this meeting, I shared a lot of the same, and still do, share a lot of the same concerns that Commissioner Pruitt shares. The 6% rate increase for bonding for these two projects is not astronomical, but it's substantial enough to where people will feel it. And so I wanted to make sure that this would be a proper investment of money for us at this time, because we are going to be in a rising electricity rate environment because of the favorable contracts that we're under now. Sometime over the next few years, we will have to raise rates because of inflation, because we've had such a favorable contract. And I get that and understand that, and I too do not want it all to hit at one time. However, after hearing the project, I'm a little different in terms of how I feel about it, because I'm understanding it more as an additional investment as well. And what I mean is one thing that really struck me from your all's presentation is that if we invest in the infrastructure now, there are lots of pluses in terms of economic development, being a 10-gig city, being able to provide all of our territory, our residential customers with reliable internet service at the same cost that they would get from elsewhere, but no additional cost for equipment, no price increases or very little price increases in the future. I like a lot of the things that you were talking about, but one of the things that really hit me was the investment in fiber. And when Barbara was talking to us about, yes, we are going to be, our customers, including the people who live in your territory that are sitting on this commission, will be having an increase in our rates due to these two projects. However, this specific project will produce a future revenue stream. And we're not quite sure or certain exactly, we can project all day what that's going to be. We're not quite sure what that's going to be, but it will be something. So we will be getting something back for our money in the future. And so when we do get that money back, that will be additional revenue to the utility. And when the utility has a different revenue stream in the future for its investment today, then that is going to help offset the need for future rate increases. And that argument I had never considered before hearing it from you and your team. And I really appreciate that argument very much, because when we are talking about rate increases on the customer, the alarm bells go up with me too. We certainly don't want to charge our customers any more than what they deserve to be charged for their products that they receive. Another thing, just as an aside, that stuck out to me in the presentation was when Brian had mentioned the school system. I got several calls back when the pandemic was happening from the school system, and you all met with the school system on a number of occasions about what do we do with the kids who have these take-home computers with no internet access. And as part of this network, if that could also lead to the people being able to take home their computers and continue, and a continuance of their internet service without being a specific customer or individual customer of the utility, that's a benefit that you can't put a number on. and I really appreciate having that capability for the community. So those are some things that I kind of gathered from the utility. There are obvious negatives in terms of pricing now that we have to consider, because there is no doubt we're raising rates to fund these two projects. But there are some benefits, both now and when it's built out and in the future, that I think will come back to benefit the utility, and it'll benefit by and large a lot of our population. So I appreciate you all coming today and giving us this presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say that as a customer, your service is phenomenal, and as a Spectrum customer now, I can't wait for this to come. I'll sign up first, but this will be an investment in our future and everybody's future in Henderson, because once they get this, they're going to figure out how good this really is. Now, I agree we're paying for it on the front end, but I can foresee this being a cash cow for years and years and years to come, and hopefully that will keep our rates where they are now, because you're going to have I applaud you for finding another revenue stream.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I'll say something very similar to what everybody else has already said. I certainly understand Commissioner Pruitt's concerns with the rate increase of 6%. Nobody likes to do that, but I think what we're talking about, these two projects, are so worthwhile. They're probably more worthwhile than a 6% rate increase. The benefit they can bring to our community in the future is just going to be astronomical. And certainly appreciate you all working on this. I know talking about bringing fiber to residential is something that's been in the Hempel pipeline for a long time. I know there's some serious traction on it before the pandemic, so I'm glad to see it come back around. And I think it's just going to be huge for our residents. And it's already been huge for our businesses. We have it at the office too. It is a great service. Definitely appreciate the service there. And then the same thing with the automatic remeeting. I mean, just to be able to lessen the manpower we need to run the utility is going to be a big benefit to us. So, I'll plan to support this.
Thank you. All right, are we ready for the vote?
Is this, which one are we voting on?
We are voting on
Bond.
the issue
This is the
of
bond
the
issue.
GO bonds for Henderson Municipal Power and Light projects. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
No.
Commissioner Staton,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Vowell,
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
Now, next we have an ordinance approving the adopting of the rate adjustment for Henderson Municipal Power and Light that will pay for the bonds that we just authorized.
Ordinance number 35-22, ordinance adopting schedule of electric rates and services. An ordinance approving and adopting a schedule of electric rates and services for electric power and energy furnished by Henderson Municipal Power and Light to its customers and consumers, adjusting the rates in residential schedule, Schedule R, general service rate schedule, Schedule GS, Housing Authority, church and public school rate schedule, Schedule HCS, demand rate schedule, Schedule D, residential distributed generation rate schedule, Schedule RDG, general service distributed generation rate schedule, Schedule GSDG, and Housing Authority church and public distributed generation rate schedule, Schedule HCSDG, demand distributed generation rate schedule, Schedule DDG, private rental lighting and public street lighting service schedule, Schedule SL, and miscellaneous rate schedule, Schedule miscellaneous, and to become effective for all services billed on and after January 1st, 2023.
Is there a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a
I
second.
want to say something before we vote.
Yes, sir.
Real quick, if this is true, it is a revenue stream for Hempel. And if I thought that this revenue stream would lower taxpayers' bills, and you guys would say, hey, we took in the extra $3 million, we're going to lower tax rates, I would be all on board. But one thing I know, every stream of revenue that's came into Hempel has never lowered one tax bill for the taxpayers out there. So that's why I'm against it.
I think you said utility bills or tax bills.
I mean, utility bills.
I just want to make one comment to that comment. if you go back and look for the past year through the power cost adjustment, this utility has credited over $3 million back to customers.
Yeah, and we credited some of the money we got back from the stealing of hemp, Big Rivers. But what I'm saying is, if it correlates directly as an investment, then the investment money that's generated should be put in a special fund, and it should be used to lower the taxing rates for the hemp customers, and it won't be. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
No.
Commissioner Staton,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles.
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
Next, under bids and contract and city manager's report, I'm going to combine those two, so Buzzy, you can introduce this subject.
Okay. Tonight with us, we have George Link, who's with Beasy Parrott and Shoulders Architects of Evansville, Indiana. And welcome back to Dylan Ward, who's been out for quite a while, and he's here tonight. And I would ask both parties to come up and present the sports complex project.
Should be, before I get started, there should be a document on the desktop. Oh, go ahead.
1 second.
Read the, she's going to read the ordinance.
Municipal order number 70-22, municipal order awarding bid for construction of the Henderson Sports Complex on Airline Road to ARC Construction Company Incorporated of Evansville, Indiana, in the amount of $10,487,800.
Now, do we have to,
Do you want to go
we'll
ahead
wait
and do a
till after
motion?
the presentation to,
You can do the presentation, you can't ask any questions until we have a motion.
that's fine. Okay.
Y'all ready for me?
Yeah, we're ready.
All right. Well, good afternoon. This is George Ling with VPS. I'm going to do most of the talking, and if y'all have any questions, he's up here for backup. So, but it is, as Buzzy said, it's good to be back. Glad to see y'all in person, not through a computer screen. So, so in my memo that was in the minutes or with the agenda package, I've outlined how we've gotten to this point. It's been kind of a long road. We did an original bid, we did a revised bid to try and save some money, and then in the memo I detailed the process and why we are recommending awarding the base bid to ARC Construction in the total amount of $10,487,800. But before I explain what is and what is not included in that base bid, I wanted to pause for a second and open it up to questions and see if anybody had any questions. Oh, go ahead.
We can't have questions
Okay.
until we make the motion.
Gotcha.
So we'll get your presentation or your
Okay, perfect.
joint
And then-
presentation.
and then questions.
And then we'll have a motion in a second, and then we'll.
Sorry, it's been a
Okay,
little
not
while.
a problem.
I've forgotten the procedure.
Not
So
a problem.
anyway, okay. So if you have questions, remember those, and then we'll come back to that. So before you all discuss the contract award, the city manager George and myself thought it would be helpful to outline what is and what is not included. Is there a laser pointer for that?
It should be, the bribe probably has it.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so on the screen, you can, well, the green might not show up real great, so I'll point it out. So you can see the master plan, which we presented you all previously. There have been a few minor changes to this, but the overall concept and big components are still the same. And so basically what is in green, so I'm going to outline this, so that you got these 4 fields here, this batting cage here, this parking area here, this main road, this first multi-purpose field, this maintenance building back here, this road, and then there's a little bit of gravel parking right here, and the concession stand building there. That's what's shown there. And so Buzzy and George, feel free to step in if I say anything wrong. But in that $10.5 million, we're getting 4 200-foot baseball, softball fields with dirt infields. They're all grass. We're getting 1 multi-purpose field here, which is grass. We're getting 1 central concession stand here, which will serve these 4 fields. We're getting 6 batting cages, which are down here. We're also getting a maintenance building that is more or less a shell. One of the things we changed in the revised bid was taking out some of the extras. We're also getting 2 gravel parking lots. So the base bid just includes a gravel parking lot here, gravel drive, and then gravel parking here. That's roughly 200 parking spaces, and that's roughly another 200 parking spaces. And then also included in the base bid is about $390,000 of allowances for contingency, portable pitching mounds, landscaping, and soil stabilization. Basically, whatever we don't use of that just comes back to us as a credit. And then also included in that base bid is the site work, drainage, detention for the entire site. So that's where a lot of that money gets eaten up at the beginning, is to basically do the dirt work for the entire site. And so with that, I wanted to be clear about what is not included in that 10.5 million figure. There's some important items that we did not include in the base bid in order to save money by thinking we could procure these items directly ourselves. There's also some items that we want to consider for future phases should funding ever become available. And so the purpose of this part of the presentation is to say, should the commission decide to approve the base bid for art construction, the commission may want to also consider pursuing some of these other items that were not originally included in the base bid. So should you all decide to have any interest in any of these items now, we could proceed with procuring these additional items and bidding them and actually have them completed at the same time the park opens. So what I've done, so that I can keep the master plan there, I've created a printout. Basically what this is basically a list of a la carte prices for the things remaining that we are not including in the base bid. And at the bottom, we have come up with a recommendation of basically if you wanted to award the base bid and you wanted to spend, more dollars now or in the future, where we would recommend doing that. Like I said, all of this is for discussion purposes for you all just to look at, because we wanted you all to understand clearly before you voted on the award to ARC what is in the base bid and what would still be left to do, so you can have a holistic picture of what the actual, overall cost may be based on what you all want to do. And so I'll just go through these really quick. As you can see, the first line item is paving of the entrance road and western parking lot. So basically that would get you paving on all of this lot and then paving of the entrance road. So you can see that would roughly cost, $500,000, maybe a little less by us bidding that ourselves. Lighting for these 4 fields is roughly $1 million. We actually got pricing from that from our original bid, so that's a real number. By pulling that out and doing it ourselves, we could probably do it cheaper. And George, I'll let you comment on some of that at the end. We did include, George got us a price. We had talked about, what it would cost to add these 2 extra multi-purpose fields now, which you can see that's the 4th line. To add each one of those would be roughly $225,000. Now I'll say, I mentioned in the base bid, we're doing all the grading and the dirt work for the entire site. So when this project, if this project was awarded just the base bid, these fields would be quote unquote built. They would be graded as soccer fields and football fields, and they would have, they would be seeded. But that 225 would get you sod, it would get you fencing, it would get you irrigation, and it would get you the concrete needed around the the field for like bleachers and that sort of thing. We also included on here, just for discussion, if we were to decide to not build new, but upgrade the one existing multi-purpose field to turf, that cost would be about $715,000. And then lighting for each one of these fields would be roughly $315,000 if the commission were interested in doing that. To build this parking lot down here, I show that we've got it as gravel in the base bid, but if we wanted to build this entire thing as asphalt, which is about 500 parking spots total, you'd be adding about 300 on this side. You're looking about $900,000. We took out of the original bid this walking trail that goes around both quads. If we wanted to put that in, that'd be about $900,000. And then I'm not going to read all these. You all can see them in front of you, because the ones at the bottom are ones that are probably less likely to do in the earlier phases. But each of these are things that we have gotten. Either George has had recent bids from them on, or that have actually come from our original bid. And so if you look at the bottom, at the bottom of the page that I handed you, we basically listed what we as city staff would recommend as being the top items for consideration beyond the base bid. Those are not things that we can act on right now. We haven't done procurements for those. We do have some really good numbers for those based on previous bid history, but we just thought that it would be helpful to let you all see that information, to see what was clearly included and not included, so you could kind of have a discussion on how you all might want to proceed forward with the bigger vision of the sports complex. So that's all I've got. George, do you have anything you want to add?
I think you covered it well, Dylan.
Buzzy, you have anything?
I do. And I want to go back, first of all, with a little history. And while this project approach appears to be hodgepodge in nature, it's given us a basis in which we can build this complex. And I'll refer back to Commissioner Pruitt, who remembers back in time when the Hogue Farm was purchased and developed by the city. And at that point in time, there was not enough money to finish it either. And what happened over a period of time, the sports organizations were given additional funding to complete the improvements for the girls softball complex and the Pennyroyal Youth Soccer Association sports fields. And that's how it got finished. But basically, the same thing happened then that's happened to us now, okay? Again, Commissioner Pruitt can speak to it because he has firsthand knowledge because he was involved. The second point I want to bring up at this time is a contingent of Dylan, the mayor, Mark Simmons, who is sitting in the back, and myself traveled to Greenville, Kentucky last week. And the mayor has asked us for over a year to make a trip, and a few people did, but some of us didn't. And what we witnessed in Greenville, Kentucky is a sports complex very similar to what we want to do. And the one thing that maybe Dylan didn't mention, but what we did see at Greenville was an indoor facility that housed basketball, volleyball, pickleball, and I don't know what else they had, but anyway, we have a footprint on our master plan to include that. The point I'm getting to, it is one of the nicest sports complexes I've ever traveled to. And in Greenville, Kentucky. Greenville, Kentucky. And what we learned is that the city and the county partnered along with the school system and along with a lot of benefactors from that county who provided money to build their complex. They also had another benefactor who left an endowment to provide annual funding to operate that sports complex. So if I were to venture to say this, if we had our preference, we would want our complex to look like Greenville, Kentucky. And I will say this, it took them time to do it. It took a lot of money to do it. And when we tried to compare what they have compared to what we are asking you for tonight to begin with, the cost, given inflation over time, because their complex was built in 17.
Yeah, their indoor was 19, and it was about 5 million, and so I think you're right, 16,
But
17.
everything else was built in 17, so cost being relative, our complex bids that we got are not that far out of line. Now, I will say one thing, of the $10 million price tag, over $3 million of it is just in dirt work and drainage and grading the pads and everything for the project. So that only left us about $7 million in the bid package to construct the actual fields and gravel the parking lots and do the sanitary sewer and water lines, irrigation. I think, Dylan, one thing that we forgot maybe to mention is we do have a federal land and water grant to construct a separate restroom and concession press box for the multi-purpose field. So I just wanted to bring all that to your attention to know that the sports committee, along with George and his group of architects and engineers, Dylan and all his efforts, we have put more time in trying to make this project work. and we know it's way over our budget. I would ask Robert to come up briefly and talk about how are we going to pay for it. And then once we're through that, then I would ask for the commission to make a motion either to vote it up or down.
You know, we're looking to go to market next year with additional bonds to pay for the remaining part of the sports complex and possible fire station. So we can include any of those in that bond issue or use reserves. You know, we do have some reserves available if needed. So.
Do you feel confident in our additional borrowing? We will be able to retire those bonds without any?
Right, I provided the city manager a spreadsheet showing what a $10 million bond issue would cost and how we're able to cover that. So I'm comfortable with that.
And it falls in line with our other capital that we know going forward that we can manage our long-term debt.
Yeah, I think I also provided that spreadsheet to the board last month during that work session. So.
Now, I have one last item, and then I'll ask if y'all will call for a vote. Dylan, a couple other items that you didn't dig too deep into, but I would ask that you just bring up you said the cost of the indoor facility, roughly $5 million.
Yeah, I'd say for us now it'd probably be 7. I think theirs was 4.8, and they did that in 2019. So I mean, George, I think it's probably fair to say probably about 7 million. If you did the exact same thing today, you're looking at 50% plus. I know that's. I think if we could take exactly what Greenville had and pay exactly what they paid, like I think we would all jump right on that because I mean they got a good price for it when they did. But yeah.
The other thing, and we have not lost sight into as we build this complex out and the utilization of it, we did engage the services of a engineering firm to look at the possibility of constructing turning lanes on Airline Road, which I want to remind y'all is a state highway. So with that being said, we did do that. In today's dollars, how much was that?
The estimate I got, and I'm glad, I had a part of my notes that I had planned to mention all this stuff, and I completely forgot, so thank you for reminding me. But yeah, the estimate I got in August from AEI was $650,000 for construction. That seems a little light. I mean, I can't remember what the turning lane cost us out on 425, but...
Don't ask.
Yeah.
You can't compare the two.
Yeah, but yeah. So anyway, I would say it's probably going to be south of $1 million, but it's probably a little bit closer to that now.
But a couple things I want to say. With that being said, we have some means and methods in which to possibly get help with that funding, and that would and could come through the state. So that's something we would want to look at in the future. Last, anything else you want to
The only other 2 things I didn't mention were, we actually had awarded a contract to Tim Skinner Design to do some signage back here on the Audubon Parkway, and so that's still something we're looking at doing. That would be separate. There's also a sign at the entrance that still needs to be designed, but I think that's something I don't know if you want me to mention anything about, potential sponsorships, but that's something that we would hopefully look to do maybe in the future.
Well, and Dylan is right, and what we would ask this Board of Commissioners to consider is allowing staff to come back at a later date to discuss possible future funding for these other projects. Yeah. But we will tell you right now, we do have an interested party in naming rights of the sports complex, which is a significant amount of money for us. So that is not included in the revenue side of the equation. But if y'all would allow us time, that would be our next goal, is to come back with a potential funding source for additional work.
Yeah. And the only other thing I would mention is, depending on how, when and if the Turning Layton project goes and how that corresponds, we've also talked about, even if it's just under our annual concrete budget, adding a sidewalk that connects to Bent Creek, just to serve those people so they can get there safely. Because, eventually we do hope to have, walking trails, and even before that's all done, I mean, you've still got parking lots and lots of places out there for recreation that people in that community might be interested in using, so.
Go ahead and get a motion so we can
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah. Is there a motion to approve the municipal order?
So moved. Second?
The motion, and who was the second?
I was the second also.
You second. Austin was motion? Okay, good. Okay. So, we have a motion and a second, and so any questions for Dylan or Buzzy?
I wanted to provide just a touch of context, and won't take long. I wanted to remind the commission and the people who are watching the meetings that this particular project was before my time and before a lot of our times up here. It came out of the visioning process in 2015, is that right?
15, 16.
Yeah, 2015 on into 16, where literally hundreds of different Hendersonians got together and talked about the needs for the community. And this one rose to the top out of that visioning workshop. And so the prior commission to the one that I had started on started the process. Buzzy had brought up the Hogue Farm. The proceeds to actually purchase this property came from the sale of the Hogue Farm. There was $700,000 that the city received for the sale of the Hogue Farm. This particular property, after some concessions by the property owners, came in at just over $800,000. So the bulk of the purchase of the land came from that. And since then, there have been a countless number of meetings with Buzzy and Dylan and a number of sports folks and a number of people in the city talking about what the needs are, what we can fit in the space, what we can engineer into it. And we're finally here today talking about moving forward with the project, which is a long time in the making. I just wanted to provide a little context there. And then I also wanted to say that even though we've got a base bid of $10.4 million, some of the items on here on this list that we're looking at, and I may not be alone in this, I'm not sure, and I'm sure other commissioners will talk. I want to see some of the items on here included in Phase 1. With whatever additional funding that we're able to raise or whatever we need to do. For example, I don't want to open up a sports complex for our city with gravel parking. I don't think that is going to be something that we should do. And so that would be something that would be a high priority item. I know a few of the others that you talked about I'm very interested in, like finishing out 2 more multi-purpose fields, the possibility of having a showcase multi-purpose field that's turf and lit. That would set us apart from other communities, certainly. There are certainly some things in there that are of value. And as Buzzy had pointed out earlier, a lot of the base work is taken care of in the base bid. It's just so doggone expensive to do the grading for the entire property. And it's unattractive in terms of the finished project. You're not going to see a lot of the money that we spend in the finished project getting the base work done for the project. That being said, a lot of these extras in relation to the project are much more affordable than a lot of the base work was to get us to that point. And so hopefully, I'm very hopeful that I'm encouraged by what went on in Greenville and what you all had discussed as far as the partnership that the city had formed there with their school board and with the county and with their local citizens. And I am hoping that some other entities in our community might want to step forward and provide a little funding to finish out some things that might be important to our communities. So thank you to get us to this point. I really appreciate all the work.
Anyone else have any?
Yeah, real quick. Maybe I missed it, but how many employees are we gonna have overseeing this, or how's all that gonna work? Have we decided that far?
Well, it's very interesting you bring that question up. But we learned a lot in Greenville.
Maybe more on that front than any front.
Oh, yes. And I'm going to tell you, they have 2 people full-time. Okay? One is an employee of the school system who's given to the complex to help the other employee who happens to work for a parks board, correct?
Yeah, it was it was very weird. The Martin Foundation gave like $50 million to the county, and so they give $200,000 a year to the county, who then gives it back to. It's weird. The money passes hands like 3 times. It goes to the parks board, back to the county, and then pays this guy's salary. So they have a county parks department, and the only employees of the county parks department are their temporary high school workers and their bookkeeper. The maintenance guy is an employee of the school, and then the sports manager is an employee of the county government, not county parks, but county. So it's like they created the county parks as like its own like third-party entity. Is really weird. And so like the money comes in, comes back, and then goes back. It's really interesting.
So to answer your question,
We figured out we're gonna do it.
we're working on what we call a sports authority concept. And we've mentioned this before, but that is something else we want to bring back before this Board of Commissioners, how we will maintain this facility going forward. And we all know in today's environment, parents do not volunteer like they used to. And everybody, it's pay to play, whatever the cost is, which eliminates some people from participating. But we want to come back with that concept and bring it back to y'all very soon.
I think it's important as we look at the sports complex and look at a sports authority that some of the things that we've done in the past in the community need to change in terms of the way that certain organizations only are allowed to utilize certain fields in exchange for this or that. It would be a goal, I think, of mine, and I don't know if the rest of the commission would share it, but as we look for operations in the future for this sports complex and for all of our sports fields, that we have equal opportunity for play on those fields, and so that some organizations aren't necessarily locked out from using certain fields that we offer to the public.
Yeah, travel ball's taking over all sports. So if we're going to do a sports complex, it's got to be for all of Henderson, travel teams and local leagues.
Absolutely.
But I will say that we have to have lighting on those fields if we're going to replace PCMA, because they play at night.
And
So we have to have the lighting.
PCMA, I'm glad you brought that up, Rodney, because PCMA, the fields are not fit to play on. They just absolutely are an embarrassment for us to send those 7- and 8-year-old kids out there to play on those fields. And those fields are old, and we don't own the property.
And they're dodging cars when they leave the fields.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the questions that I had when I first started on the commission many years ago and learned about this project is, why don't we take money and improve upon what we have? And I think a lot of the people in the public don't realize that we don't have PCMA fields. They do not belong to the city. We lease that ground from the school system on a yearly basis.
And they don't want to sell it.
And they
don't want to sell it too.
Well, it's that and we're unsure of when they are going to sell it and to whom they're going to sell it to, and so spending $1 million a field to upgrade there, or however much that equates out to, could be money thrown after land that we no longer are allowed to use in a few years, and so that's certainly
not large enough either.
Yeah.
But lights are, we can't host tournaments and have our local teams playing out there without lights. It's just got to have it.
Well, I think this is another positive. Like I said, I was on that vision plan, helped writing it, and we just one more step for the kids in Henderson to make their life a little bit better. So it's going to be great. Like I said, even if we can't get it all at once, and I'm like you, I don't want to pull up on rocks neither when I go out there. No, I don't think we'll do that.
Give us time and we'll figure out the rest of the plan and bring it back to you.
So that's what I'm hearing is, so it sounds like we need to proceed with maybe getting some pricing for the parking and the paving and then the lights. And I guess my question was, is there any interest in us proceeding with getting pricing on any of the rest of the stuff?
I want to make sure, I think it's in our best interest because of the cost related to the project. And I don't want to ever give the appearance that I think that $216,000 is not a lot of money, because it is. But in relation to the project, if it's going to cost $216 thereabouts to finish out each field, I'd like to look at going ahead and finishing out the two additional multi-purpose fields, so that after phase one, we're starting out with a minimum of 3 multi-purpose fields and 4 baseball diamonds on the site, and then we can expand from there.
I'd like to see that myself.
I agree with that too.
Yeah, I think
And
the two
those are
fields.
fortunately two of the less expensive projects.
Yeah.
Yeah, just get them
Of
in
the
there.
things, yeah, you get a lot of bang for your buck there to add the
Yeah.
irrigation inside to it.
Well, again, we have some deep thoughts on how to make this happen. Give us just a little more time.
Gotcha. So tonight, all you're asking for us to do is to go ahead and approve the base bid so we can get things started, with the understanding that we are going to add things to phase one and figure out where our funding sources are going to come from. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I guess, Buzzy, that's my question for you, is do you want any more direction on any of these? Because it sounds like we're getting the approval to go ahead and start, well,
Let's stick with
Okay.
what we presented tonight. Anything in addition to that, we'll bring back at a later
yeah,
date.
I was just making sure we knew what it was they wanted us to pursue
Lighting.
getting. Yeah,
The two.
the lighting, the 2 extra
Multi-purpose
The
fields.
fields, the parking.
And
the paving. Okay.
And if we can, honestly, if there's somebody interested, especially if there's somebody interested in funding it, but even if they're not, even if it's city funded, I would like to see what adding turf to the one showcase field would be, because I like moving forward with this project because it takes care of our citizens. A lot of the sports that we're talking about that are the most popular in the nation right now can use a multi-purpose field. And we have a need for soccer anyway, but there may be an additional need for multi-purpose fields for our community in the future. And not a lot of communities around us have a turf showcase field for soccer and other things that might be able to utilize a multi-purpose field. It would set us apart. I like the idea of having something there that would set our community apart.
And we might be able to work with Hempel and get that $1 million on lighting down. They might be able to do it a lot cheaper. So we got a partner that could help on that point.
You're running fiber out there, won't you?
We're real close already.
Okay.
Yeah. See something?
Bent Creek,
What's that?
will Bent Creek get fiber? I thought we could, I thought we could use,
Clarify, we can, the plan should be to build out the fiber infrastructure within the service
Okay.
territory first, then we can build it out beyond that.
Yeah.
We currently serve business customers outside the service territory today.
yeah.
To
See,
clarify.
I think communities like Bent Creek are going to be those type of communities that are, may want this service, you know.
And speaking of Bent
And
Creek,
Hallander.
Yes.
speaking of Bent Creek, I know there are other funding sources that we're going after for this, but the turn lanes, I think, should be considered a high priority item, because as we move forward with the sports complex, we want to make sure that we're being good neighbors to the folks in Bent Creek. And, you know, they are part of the city now, and we want to make sure that we're protecting their interests and try to make it as easy as possible for when there are events for people to get home to that neighborhood.
Okay, that $10 million just went to $15 million, which is fine. That's fine. That's what our goal should be, and that's what our goal is. To have, you know, to have it all, to have a good, now, and we do, Greenville did a really good job on field, and they got sponsorships on everything. They got sponsorships on their bushes down there. And, but they did a really good job on that, and it could be, if things work out right, it could be a significant amount of money for sponsorships in Henderson, so.
Well, one last comment, and I said it earlier, thank you for demanding that we take a trip, because we did learn a lot, and we will be going back, and it's given us a new set of eyes on things that either we thought about, didn't know about, or how to operate it. It was a valuable trip.
You know, it's one of the best things about living in Kentucky is the communities around you, including us. We really care about each other.
Yeah, they were
There's
very,
been so many times where people like that have been willing to help, and we've been able to help other people. It's nice.
they were very welcoming, and we appreciate it. Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we've had questions and discussions, so roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
Buzzy, did you have anything else on our city manager's report?
Yes, if you don't mind to write down on your schedules, we will have a regular meeting next Tuesday. We have a city co-op meeting on December 6th at 2 p.m. We will have a regular meeting on December 13th. And we may have to use December 20th as a standby. And the reason I say this, we have a lot of things laying before us that may need action before the end of the year. And all I will say is, a lot of it is very positive for our community. That's all.
So just mark that on your calendars, and Buzzy, and will let us know when we need to be here. So, good deal. Is there, let's see, Commissioner Pruitt, anything else today? Commissioner State, anything else?
I just wanted to say congratulations to the other three members of our commission for how the election turned out. I look forward to serving again with you next year.
Absolutely, good deal. Commissioner Thomas, anything?
Not today.
Commissioner Vowles?
I'll just add one more thing. I got a chance to go to a presentation by Murray State University and Henderson Community College about some new business program pathways they have for students available to get associates in business degrees and bachelor's in business degrees and even MBA in business. They're available all at Henderson Community College or online now. So I think Murray is going to be pushing that really hard, advertising that for people, and so some new great opportunities for people. So just to let you all know, that is in the works.
Yeah, that's a good thing. And the governor was down and helping out on the CTE program out at the high school and on the robotics and management program at the college. And we've got a lot of good things really going on. And I was at a meeting the other night with, there were some people, it wasn't a city meeting, it was an outside meeting, people in there from Evansville and Owensboro and Southern Illinois. And they said, y'all are on a roll here. And we hear it all the time, and it's a good thing. So let's see now. So is there anyone, Missy, did you have anything tonight? Anything else from anybody here that want to bring something before the commission? Okay, so I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. And get up out of your chair.